This is Derby Sisters Rising for CommUNITY. Vanessa joining trans rights activist of many years, Tara Morris, and Trans Pride organiser, part of the team organising Derby's first ever Trans Pride coming up this autumn. Tara, good to speak to you today.
Thank you.
So let's start from the beginning, because it's a really interesting moment in history we're at right now. But before we get to that, tell me a little bit about how you first got involved in campaigning on trans rights.
Well, I was like, first of all, I was used to go to Transcend back in 2010, 2011, something of that time. And I think it was really, first of all, I started up a group on Facebook, which was called Say No to Spouse Veto, which was, if you were going for the the gender recognition certificate, you had to have your spouse's permission, or you had to be divorced at one point. Actually, that was another part of it as well. Anyway, I started a group up saying No to Spouse Veto, only to change it say a few months later to Trans Rights UK, which was a really growing Facebook page. At one point as well, I had to have people to help me with it because it got so big I couldn't do the admin all on my own. I didn't really, I guess, expect it to be so big. Anyway, people were also asking me, some people from the Green Party and some people from the Labour Party were asking me to join theirs, and I was having a conversation with an activist who did mostly YouTubes. It's not alive now, which is unfortunate, regrettably unfortunate. Some of you might know Sophie Bofer. And if you don't, try and look her up on YouTube, because I think she's still got a few things up there. Anyway, we were both discussing whether to join Green LGBT or Labour. Decided that Labour was probably a bigger party, and also the Green Party member had written Don't Throw Feminism Out with the Bathwater, which was actually a very transphobic piece. Of course, the Green Party weren't that apologetic and handled the situation poorly, so we went again toward Labour at that time. This was obviously before hindsight. So I joined the Labour LGBT first, and it was coming up to the annual general meeting. Alwyn was going to step down, and there's only one person who put the name forward, and I think Alwyn was asking myself, and Sophia too was asking me to actually throw my hat in. So I thought, well, I'll do that. I didn't know whether I would win or not, but I actually did. So I ended up, I guess, piercing the Westminster bubble.
And what was that experience like, trying to change something from within the inside in terms of the LGBT work within a political party?
It was interesting. It was definitely an eye-opener, particularly with the Labour Party. You will be surprised, but let's say at the time it was around 2015, between Cameron and Theresa May, when I actually became the actual trans officer, and I did actually find that some of the Conservative politicians were more friendly towards the trans movement at the time than the Labour. So there's that as well. Mm-hmm. It was okay, but sometimes it was a bit grilling as well. It was a voluntary job. I was working nights. Sometimes I found myself travelling to London, having a meeting, and then travelling back and going straight to work.
I think you highlight a really important point that so many activists talk about, how often this work is expected to be unpaid labour and is very emotionally draining work, to be challenging these things, and often dealing with backlash, whether you're the person in a workplace running your local LGBT staff network, or whether you're campaigning in a community, or like you are in a national lobbying sort of role. Do you think the world is sort of paying enough attention to looking after the people who take on this difficult work?
No, they do get attacked constantly, and for very different reasons. They get attacked by the people on the committee, and they get attacked by the people who oppose your committee. It is very stressful on both sides.
And it's so difficult, because it's such important work, those people who bravely take on that role to sort of try and push for positive change, but it's so important to look after those people in that role.
Very much so, yes.
Well, interesting to reflect on obviously all those years and the sort of experience you've got campaigning both within organisations as well as outside in the community, and sort of community support group work as well. Bringing us up to date, obviously many people have seen media coverage of some of the division that's being stirred up particularly between cis and trans women. We sit here today as people who've worked together for many years as activists.
Yeah, we have, haven't we?
Feminists, gosh, I'm trying to think how long now, but you know, we've worked together side by side, including on things like International Women's Day, and proving that for years it's never been an issue. We've been very much standing together, organising together for the common good. Why do you think things have rolled backwards and there seems to be more division now than there was when we were organising years ago?
I think it's like the overuse of freedom of speech. It's one thing, freedom of speech, when you're trying to not just defend your rights but also gain more, than when you're punching down and expressing hatred. And I think we've accepted far too much hatred, and we always have done. I can remember just after Trump won, there was this question, how did we get here? And I said, you didn't stand up for your brothers and sisters. You didn't call out hatred when it was on your TV, when it was in your newspaper, when it was Joe Blogs from work discriminating against somebody. You know, it's very true. Unity we stand, divided we fall.
Yeah, I love it. It's such an important reminder, isn't it, of people not to wait until it affects you personally or directly, because eventually it will be all of us that come after.
Absolutely. We've all heard Nobler's poem, and I personally prefer Angela Davis's saying, because it's shorter and sweeter. If they come for me in the morning, they'll be after you at night. And also, that is a very important book to read. Recommend it to any feminists and black rights activists as well. So important in so many different levels.
Oh, there's some amazing feminists, like I say, Angela Davis, such an incredible legacy that she's passed to us. And it's interesting, you know, there are lots of feminists agonising over these questions about how do we organise in a way, because people are trying to divide us as a feminist movement between cis and trans women, which we resist and stand together on. But who are some of the kind of influential or inspiring feminists you look to who are getting it right and have been trans inclusive?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem at the moment is you're seeing the pro-trans feminists being deplatformed at the expense of platforming transphobic so-called feminists. But how does these feminists speak about abortion rights that are now being endangered in this country? How is that feminism? Having to prove yourself to be what they call a biological woman, to use your facility, you know, the right facilities, and you have to take a certificate, your birth certificate. How is that feminism?
Yeah, absolutely.
And having to live up to gender norms.
Which is exactly what feminism has been fighting for centuries, isn't it? Not to be put in a box and limited as what you can do with your life, who you can be.
Absolutely.
And to conform to some limiting idea of what femininity is meant to look like and perform, and to actually be free from that. So it seems ironic, doesn't it, that people in feminist movement are working against that in some cases. But what about any people who give you hope, any inspiring feminists, either past, present or from history, who have been inclusive?
Well, of course, I've already mentioned Angela Davis, which I did actually see this International Women's Day, and it was really, it was a really good festival. They had the trans inclusive choir there. Okay, there wasn't a lot of speech, but as Angela Davis said, that you got to remember the trans rights activists, particularly within the LGBT movement, as we started throwing the first bricks. And of course there's Sandy
Sandy Toksvig.
Yeah,
great comedian and intellectual, and she founded the Women's Equality Party.
Yeah, which I was actually a member of after resigning from the Labour Party, because even back in the early days of Keir Starmer, I knew it was bad news, I'm afraid. And it was the very fact that he wouldn't sign a Labour transaction, I think it was called, which were trying to get them to sign a motion in the Labour Party to basically stop the discrimination of transphobia within it. And he was the only person that was in that leadership election that didn't sign it.
And it's interesting now seeing how things are playing out under his so-called leadership right now.
Absolutely, and frightening too.
It is, and coming to recent years, there has been this increasing divisive rhetoric. It's sort of the loudest, shouty voices in the media getting all the airtime. And I'd say a lot of people who are just getting on with working together in solidarity together as trans and cis sisterhood together, working for our common rights to challenge misogyny and oppression and live more freer lives together for our common interest. But we have seen people stir up fear, stereotypes, a lot of misinformation going out there. So I appreciate that there might be people listening who've never had a chance maybe to have a really good conversation with a trans sister and understand better. What would you want to say to people who are curious to learn more about maybe some of the myths or fears that have been spread that you would like to challenge, change or reassure people about?
I think really the first one is, what do you really think we do in a public toilet? I mean, seriously. The thing is, I've never really thought, wow, I've, transitioned, now I can use every women's toilet. No, I only have 2 reasons to go there. I don't need to say them, do I?
No.
And I only go if I have to. I don't like using them anyway. Who does like using public toilets? But sometimes if you got to go, you got to go. So now where do we go? We know that some places you just can't walk in the gents' toilets. And I kind of actually said once, well, maybe we should do it outside of number 10 Downing Street. After all, that's where all the shits go, isn't it? Obviously.
Collective dump for the cause.
Absolutely.
I mean, we jest, but I mean, there's, it's almost like we have to find a way to cope through all this absurdity, don't we, that it's caused. But in terms of the real impact, some people might say, oh, it's no big deal. But what would you say to help people understand what the impact of this has been for people sort of feeling that fear, they're not sure if they can use public facilities?
Yeah, I mean, what if we can't go to the gents and we can't go to the women's, we'll have to go to the disabled. I do not want to go to the disabled because it might be vacating a toilet that somebody who's actually disabled needs to go.
Urgently, often, yeah. I've had friends who need it. There's a whole reason that
Yeah.
accessible toilets are there for people who might need it urgent and need access.
Absolutely. And then there's some disabled toilets in women's. So, you know, that's stopping us going out. And it is like degrading, because what if we do mess ourselves? Because we can't go to the toilet.
It's such a basic,
It's
fundamental
human.
need, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But some people, maybe who haven't had a chance to learn about this or self-educate yet about this issue, might be wondering, but what's the big deal? Why can't a trans woman just go to the toilets labelled for, you know, the gents, the men's? What would you want to say to help someone really understand why that is not okay?
Would they actually go to the gents? When there's men, particularly in, let's say, a public house or somewhere where people have been drinking, you know, the fear is there. The fact is that that's where men go who are known and are the majority that do abuse women. Do you think they can care if they're trans or not? And if they do, also with the hatred that's on on the media, it's not making any part of the world safe for us at the moment.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's so important for people to understand. If people have only heard, you know, the tabloid headlines about this, the misinformation, the fear mongering that's going on, but not really looking at what is really underneath all this. And like I say, for most women, cis and trans, one of our shared experiences is often the fear of the violence of men. And this doesn't help that at all for any of us.
No.
I'm always wondering why some of these, you know, so-called feminists who seem to be dividing the movement with that transphobia and exclusive thinking don't show up when I'm organising Reclaim the Night, our nighttime march, to challenge the issues of harassment in the public streets and violence against women. I don't see them coming to help us organise International Women's Day. I didn't see them come help us tackle our early intervention domestic abuse work we all put our unpaid labour into. But they just seem to show up just to kind of try and challenge us for being trans inclusive and harass us. But they're not organising on our shared oppressor in terms of misogyny and the violence against women and girls, which is such a pressing, urgent issue for us all collectively.
And I also have noticed that they're not the same people who are campaigning for the change of abortion rights as well.
Yeah, so
which is rather telling, I think, because I always thought that the same people that are fighting trans people are also fighting against your body choice rights.
It's such an important link to make, isn't it? It's freedom about our bodies and our autonomy, is it, to choose our body's destiny. And yeah, it's often when you trace where the money is behind some of these campaigns.
Absolutely.
It's interesting how some very wealthy, right-wing, very fervourish groups backing some of this very divisive, regressive ideas, both on women's right to determine our bodies, whether that's around trans affirmation or abortion healthcare that's vital to have as, you know, an option that many generations before us fought for.
Yeah.
So we've addressed some of those issues that we've seen, you know, and I think it's really helpful to hear you speak to some of the issues that, like I say, if some people just don't ever have a chance to hear directly from a trans woman about these experiences and how it's really affected people, all they've got is what they hear in the media and a lot of paid advertising from very rich people putting out content, you know, billionaire wealth behind a, you know, transphobic mission. But there are also people out there who care and probably want to help and don't want to, you know, allow this kind of nasty exclusive stuff we're seeing. But some people aren't sure what they could do. So in people's day-to-day lives, how can people be good allies and show solidarity?
I think the first thing that you can do is really to reach out to them. If you're nervous, you don't know if you are talking to the right person. This is the first thing I found out during my transition. Some of the people that you thought were quite liberal and okay turned out to be the biggest bigots I've ever known. Yet people I wrote off as pretty much conservative were actually a good ally.
Interesting.
also, every time somebody says transphobic narrative, to challenge them. And I know that is very difficult these days because they're getting as much anyone ally these days of trans are usually get bullied as much as trans people themselves.
So this is part of the silencing, isn't it, of resistance?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dangerous, but that's so important to
Yeah.
to challenge when we hear inappropriate comments or inappropriate, people making flippant jokes or making it a punchline rather than showing how we can challenge it. Are there any other things you'd like to see people doing to support?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, the first thing is just to reach out. That's the lowest, basically the smallest thing you could do. And as for actual allyship, maybe writing to your MP. Also challenging these organisations that we have and not supporting others.
So not supporting those organisations that are going with regressive rollbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. Even not buying like J.K. Rowling's merchandised Harry Potter stuff as well was a very big thing as well, to be honest.
Yeah, boycotting throughout history has been such a powerful way of saying we're not investing in hatred and oppression, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that's great. There's some really good practical things there you've given. I think that's because some people want support but not quite sure how. Thinking about sort of locally, we've got a really exciting opportunity coming up in Derby because you and a team are organising Derby's very first Trans Pride. Tell us a bit about why this felt important in this moment, this historic moment, to organise this and how people can get involved.
Right. Well, the reason I thought about it, and I think maybe part of it was inspired by Nottingham Trans Pride, and thanks to Rebecca for organising that as well. And I thought, well, maybe Derby could do with one. I think part of it was when I went to Derby Pride and I saw a Labour tent there, and well, I did actually give them my opinion, but it was the whole concept of them being in the park and not being seen, whereas I think Pride, the secret's really in the name. You need to be seen, and trans people definitely need to be seen. You find it hard. People find it hard to argue when they're face to face with the people they so-called oppose. Usually, unless you're really that hate-ridden, and it's about being seen. We are here. We are represented. We are in your town. We're probably living next door to you, and yeah. It's that we've got to make a statement now more than ever when, we're trying to raise us and brush us under the carpet. Trying to, what's it called now? The HMC?
Oh, yeah, the awful Interim Guidance on the Equality and Human Rights Commission, which is, again, not based on science or the best practice and wisdom of our time, but some regressive... minimising and totally inappropriate, and also doesn't have lawful standing. If anyone out is wondering about guidance, as it's not statutory guidance, and we're hoping it'll get overturned through the courts.
Absolutely, and no, we do not accept it at whatsoever.
Yeah.
And if I have to barricade myself in the ladies, then so be it.
We'll be in there together side by side.
Absolutely, and even if it's just me and you, Vanessa.
I suppose we've probably been on some protests where it's been a small few of us over the years in the pouring rain, showing up. But it's, it's so important, isn't it? And I think, there's so many injustices at the moment. We were seeing, awful headlines in the news of all sorts of oppressions globally and locally.
Absolutely.
And people sometimes feel a bit overwhelmed, but I think Trans Pride feels like a way to say, hey, here's something you can come and support and get involved in. And show that we are one community together. We are neighbours, we are co-workers in unions, we are sharing our neighbourhood, our city of Derby, and we're together because we want a harmonious city.
And basically we are human.
Yeah, and I love what you said earlier, actually that visibility is so important, because again, for those who are coming from a place of fear and hatred. It usually comes from unfamiliarity, isn't it? Fear of
Oh,
unknown.
absolutely.
Whereas actually, once you've met someone and had a chat, you think, well, the fear melts away because you have a nice chat. You find common interests, hobbies, things you care about are the same things most of us care about, wanting a decent, safe life and to make the best of life with our loved ones.
Absolutely, yes. Totally.
So how can people support Trans Pride? And it's going to be this September, right? September 2025.
Well, the best ways, of course, is probably joining a march and marching along with us. The more allies, the better. And also joining in with probably celebrations, and hopefully, I am hoping it will be a success and something for Derby to look forward to.
It's really making history, isn't it? I think the first time for any big event in this city.
Yeah.
It's really special.
It's kind of scary as well.
I can imagine it's a big thing.
Yeah.
But again, this might be an area that people listening can, walk the talk on allyship. If you say you're someone who cares about humanity and human rights, here's an opportunity to put that into action. So I guess people can support. What can people sponsor? Can they come and help with organising or volunteer as stewards? What would you like to people helping out with?
Well, as I say, we'll need stewards, and basically we'll need some funding. So that's another thing, and to help where you can. And to sort of like celebrate and just basically be there with us, outside against us, I guess.
Yeah, and we know sadly we've organised events locally, for example for International Women's Day and women's rights events, and we've had sadly a small but vocal and very unpleasant, nasty group of transphobic women, including the Women's Rights Network, turning up shouting and interrupting while we've had survivors of domestic abuse bravely speaking on the microphone, and I didn't know how is that helping advance women's liberation at all. So it feels so important to have the support at this event and to counter and outnumber those who try to divide us and spread hatred.
Absolutely, yes.
So people can help spread the word, promote it, get involved, throw a fundraiser, help raise money. If you work for a member of a union or your workplace or a community group, maybe you can help fundraise or sponsor or have lots of ways people can really show support in, as the suffragettes used to say, deeds, not just words.
Absolutely, yes.
So if you imagine the event in your mind, I know it's early 20, but what are the things you hope are the positive outcomes that come after the day?
People probably who weren't so sure, and then sort of at meters and night think, well, yeah, we haven't got two heads, and we're not chasing after women. It's and all this ridiculous make-believe that the Telegraph comes out with these days, amongst other papers. And just, if you're curious, then maybe there are people there that you can talk to. And also maybe if there are people that are perhaps in the closet, to encourage them as well. Because it's probably them at the moment who will be having the most difficult time.
Yeah, and in this current climate where this hatred's been stirred up, it's such a difficult thing, isn't it, to come and be visible on a march. It's a really brave, really courageous thing to do.
Absolutely, yes.
And so that's why it's so important that we all have each other's backs and support, and allies have got an important role in coming and supporting and standing together, while centering trans voices in leading this.
Yeah.
I really hope it'll be a day that makes our city proud.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. And any final thoughts or messages you want to share as we think about how we can be a better community with more unity in our
Well, as I said, we need to stand united, and we need to call people out who speak against our brothers and sisters.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the work you're doing and have done for many years. And we wish all of the Trans Pride organisers and supporters a fantastic success.
Thank you.
You just heard another serving of the Derby Sisters Rising for Community project. We are putting the unity back into community at a time where people are trying to divide us and turn us on one another in our society. This project is in resistance, and you can find more episodes speaking to various people around Derby who are making a difference and bringing communities together in positive ways. You can look for the project Derby Sisters Rising for Community online, including on YouTube, to hear more of those episodes. And we are very thankful to Tara and everyone who's organising Derby's first Trans Pride, taking place on Saturday the 20th of September 2025. And we're really pleased to place this on the historical record of Derby's social and human rights history.